Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my first impressions reaction to Carol and the End of the World. So, I know the basic plot of this, it's the entire reason I decided I wanted to check this out. Um, Basically, it's about kind of an everyday woman named Carol who basically navigates life leading to the end of the world. The apocalypse is going to be happening, and Carol's just trying to be Carol, I guess you could say. Um, it's an interesting concept. I've seen a lot of end of the world kind of scenarios in movies, television, games, and when you usually see these movies and stuff, you don't usually see like a person just trying to go about their life in the time leading up to it or afterwards. Usually, if it's a leading up to what is supposed to be the end of the world, you usually will see the characters like doing crazy shit, fulfilling a bucket list of sorts, doing stuff that they would never otherwise do because the world's gonna end. So why not? And usually when it's like during or post apocalypse, a lot of times it's survival focused. The characters are just trying to survive. Um, but here, it seems to have a completely different focus. Now, I don't know any of the details on how this end of the world happens. I don't know, like, if it's a meteor, if it's a zombie apocalypse, if it's something else. I don't know. Um, I don't know who's in this. I don't know any of that. Um, all I know is it's an animated series and the basic concept of the plot. So I'm interested to see what they do with this. This is a limited series, I do know that though, which means that it is only the single season. Think Over the Garden Wall. It's not meant to be anything more than this. It will never get anything more than this. That kind of defeats the purpose. It's a limited series that is meant to just tell a single story in 10 episodes, like Over the Garden Wall did. Um, so I'm definitely interested to see what they do with this. And if you're new to the channel, one, welcome. Two, if you don't know what a first impressions reaction is, let me clue you in real quick. First impressions reaction is exactly as it sounds. I react to something, give my first impressions of it, and decide whether or not we are going to continue reacting to it on the channel. Um, it's really that simple. I check out the first episode, and that's going to determine if it's something I want to continue reacting to in the future, if it's something I would rather watch on my own time, or if it's just something I'm not interested in, and I'm going to drop it. Um, if it is something that I am interested in and want to continue reacting to, it's added to the list, which basically just means I put it in the waiting pool for the future. When I get to, I have certain slots on my schedule for specifically first impressions continuing shows. So once one of those ends, I look at the pool, look at what I have to get to, and decide what I want to bring in next. Eventually, everything is gotten to. It just sometimes it takes a little bit of time. But first impressions, basically the point is, if I'm not sure what I'm going to think of a series, I give it a first impressions. I check it out, and I determine if it's something, again, I want to continue or not. Now, it doesn't confirm, it doesn't completely tell me if I'm going to like the series overall. It's just literally based on the first episode. Anything can change from that point forward. So keep in mind, it is literally just a first impression. Shows are a lot more than first impressions. So we'll see how it goes. Um, I'm definitely interested in checking this out. Obviously, I definitely think this could be good, but I don't know. I do know one other thing, that this is an adult series. It is meant to be viewed from that angle. So I don't know like how adult it gets. Like I assume there's swearing and stuff. Probably talk about sex and all. I don't know if there will be actual nudity or not. It's kind of always up in the air with mature series. Um, I don't know if there will be like violence and gore. I don't know like exactly how it's going to, handle a lot of this. Um, but let's just check it out, find out for ourselves, and hope for the best. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Just woke up not long ago. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I looked up Eric's voice actor, and I didn't really recognize him from anything. Well, I didn't. There was nothing that I would recognize his voice from. The actor is Michael Chernus, and like he's been in a few live action things I've seen, like Spider-Man: Homecoming, for example. He was Tinkerer in that. Very very minor character, but um, yeah, it's like nothing I would recognize his voice from. In fact, it looked like he hasn't really done any other voice acting roles. So yeah. Um, I didn't really look up anyone else, like so I don't know who like Tom Kenny played, for example, and whatnot. But yeah, um, there was one thing I was gonna say in the reaction, but I decided to wait on that. Let's talk about that here. So I was gonna mention that the funny thing is that in this kind of situation, I would probably be a lot like Carol. If this kind of thing were happening, I would probably be one of those people who would be not really changing my life too much, to the point where, if I'm being honest, I would probably still be doing the same thing kind of out of denial of everything. I would still be recording and posting to, YouTube and everything for as much as I could until I guess it eventually shut down. I would be just focusing on trying to ignore it. Um, because I tend to be a very emotional person. And so acknowledging like that kind of thing would take a huge mental toll on me. And I have a lot of mental health issues already. Um, so it's like, even if I'm like partying or whatever, like other people are doing, I would be really fucked up by acknowledging that kind of thing, because it's like just I already have a fear of death and everything. It wouldn't go well. I would very much be like Carol. I would be ignoring it. But let's now that I've gotten that out of the way, because I wanted to bring that up first and foremost, just because I wanted to make sure I did mention it, like I said I would. Um, this was phenomenal. Like, I went into this knowing the basic plot, like the basic concept of this series. I knew like Carol was just trying to kind of live her life still, trying to get by. Again, I didn't know all the details. I didn't know like how specific things would get or how dramatic, how intense. I didn't know that there was going to be nudity for sure. I was like, there could be nudity. I don't know. I knew it was an adult series. Like I knew that. But I didn't know how far it would go with it. Like I said, I mentioned this in the pre-thoughts. Um, I didn't know like what the actual end of the world would be based around. There's just so much that I didn't know. It was literally just the core concept. So going into this, I had no freaking clue what to expect. I didn't know if I would like this or not. Honestly, there was a part of me that was thinking I probably wouldn't. There was a part of me that was worried that this was going to be more like one of those adult series I don't like, akin to something like Rick and Morty or whatnot. Um, but just based on this first episode alone, like I said in the pre thoughts, this is entirely based on first episode. This is I don't know how the rest of the series is going to go. I don't know what the rest of it's going to be like. Um, so I can only judge it based on what I've seen here, and what I've seen here is like so fucking mature. And I don't mean mature as in like, oh, this is an adult animated series. Haha, there's nudity and language and breaking into buildings and shit. No, no. I mean actually mature in the way that this is handled. I mean, like, there is actual effort put into this to make it believable, to make it understandable, to make it just emotional, and to make you care. It's an adult series, but it doesn't treat it like a joke. It's not being edgy and whatnot for the sake of being so. It's not being vulgar for the sake of being so. Even like the nudity and stuff you see in it, the kind of in some cases debauchery, and in some cases just people like going out there partying and living and whatnot. None of it is painted in a vulgar way. Like, you see Carol's parents and they're butt fuck naked the entire time. You never see them with clothes on. And it's never treated as this joke. You see them having a relationship with their nurse. And it's never treated like a joke. You see Eric desperate for love, desperate for someone he can spend his last days with, for himself and his son. And he's not treated as creepy or cringy or as a joke. He comes across as very sympathetic, and you feel super sad for him. You genuinely feel for him because you can tell he's genuine. He's so desperate for love because he's afraid. Because he's afraid that he and his son's lives will end without that. Without anyone but each other. The way this handles these characters, what they're going through, just everything, is so, like, shockingly good. Like, I did not expect that going into this. And I acknowledge that's on me. That's fully on these preconceived notions I had based on the fact that I know it's an adult animated series. I was afraid, like I said, that this would be a lot like Rick and Morty. And I want to make clear that obviously means I don't like Rick and Morty. If you like it, that's fine. I'm not trying to hate on your tastes or anything. I'm just saying, I personally don't like Rick and Morty. I find it pretentious. I find it pretentious and vulgar for the sake of vulgarity. It's not entertaining, it's not funny, it's not enjoyable to watch for me. I've given it a chance. I've seen random clips here and there all the time. I didn't like it. It's that simple. And I'm allowed to not like something. Just like you're allowed to not like something. Um, but with this series, it handles everything in such a mature, like reasonable way that it's kind of shocking. Because again, you're seeing all this stuff that you would see in a lot of these other shows. Like you watch Futurama, you're gonna see the characters get naked. Like it doesn't show anything, but you're gonna see them naked. You just don't won't see nipples or whatnot. Um, you watch Family Guy, and you're gonna get all these ridiculous, horrible jokes and everything. You're going to you watch Rick and Morty, and it's just vulgarity as far as the eyes can see. And it's like this show has stuff like that in it, but none of it is treated like a big joke. None of it feels like it's there to insult the viewer's intelligence. It's used in a realistic way. All these people, you know, just trying to cross off their bucket lists and experience life at the literal end of the world. They're just trying to live, and that means all kinds of things. It means debaucherous parties. It means sex. It means having a polyamorous relationship with your live-in nurse. It means all kinds of things. And all of it is so well handled that it's shocking. I went into this, and I admit, preconceived notions. I went into this thinking that this was going to be more like a comedy. I thought it was going to be more on the level of something like Rick and Morty or Family Guy, or if I at least got lucky, something more palatable like Futurama. But I didn't expect it to be like this serious. It's not a comedy. There's some comedic elements to it here and there, but it's not a comedy, it's a drama. It's about this woman who can't let go, who doesn't want to let go of life, of her regular everyday monotonous boring life, because it gives her a sense of normalcy. It gives her a sense of just denial. She's able to forget about the fact that everyone's going to die in 7 months by literally ignoring it. Ignoring the problem until they all go away. And it's made very clear that that's not healthy. And it's not and they're not saying it, the creators of the show and everything are not trying to like say that kind of thing in a judgmental way or anything. But it's not healthy to deny what's in front of your face. It's not healthy to deny this kind of stuff happening. No one's saying that you have to go out and like lose your mind partying and get drunk constantly and, you know, stuff like that. But to live in denial to a point where it's clearly affecting your mental health, that's not going to help anyone either. That's not going to help those you care for, and it's definitely not going to help you. And again, I'm saying this as someone who would probably be very much in the same situation. Because of my own mental health issues, I would be way too afraid to acknowledge it. I would be scared that it would fuck me up even further. And considering my immense fear of death, and especially, very specifically, my fear of what happens to your consciousness after death, like, that existential shit freaks me the fuck out. um, I would be in denial, 100%. I would be ignoring it. And I know this for sure because I already do this to a degree. You know the crazy shit that's happening in our world right now? Between the wars and whatnot, for example? I don't talk about that stuff a lot. The wars between, Russia and Ukraine and everything, all this other horrible shit that goes on in the world. I don't talk about this stuff often on social media or anything. Occasionally I'll share a post I see about it, but I almost never make my own about it. And the reason is because I'm afraid to acknowledge it. Because it becomes real once I do. And once it becomes real for me, I get super fucking emotional and break down because people needlessly dying in these horrific wars is fucking terrible and just really fucks me up, and I don't like it. I very much hate war. I very much hate people dying. It bothers the shit out of me, and it's something that I try to ignore. And even just acknowledging it now is getting me very emotional. um I am my eyes are not quite tearing up yet, but that's because I'm trying my best to hold it in. Um, yeah. If I weren't holding it in, I would be crying. This kind of shit fucks me up, and it's the fact that it's unfortunately so common in the world. The fact that we're having to go through all this shit all the time throughout human history bothers me. And so I tend to not ignore that it's happening exactly, because I always know it's happening, but I don't like acknowledge it when I'm talking about things. I try to think about other stuff, think about happier stuff, because I don't want to have a breakdown. So I know that in this kind of situation, I would be the same as Carol. Like I said, I would probably be waking up every day, coming in here and recording stuff as I do, because I'm so afraid of what would happen with my mental health if I acknowledge that. And that's a bit of a bigger thing than like just war. I mean, war is horrific and evil, and there's nothing that ever justifies it. But the end of the war, literal end of the world, that would, human level extinction event, like, if I were in that situation and I fully acknowledged that, I would probably have a literal full fucking breakdown. Like, to the point where I would probably be unresponsive from it. And I would definitely, based on knowing myself, I would very much be suicidal. I would probably try to justify that with, I would rather go out on my own terms. And it's like, I don't want to talk about this, actually. Let's move on, because I'm actually really upsetting myself by talking about this. I watched one fucking episode of this, and it's doing this shit to me. I I guess that goes to show you, like, what kind of impact the show is already having on me from just the first episode. Um, and and I want to say here, um, despite all of that, I make it clear this was phenomenal. This was good. It's positive reaction here. Um, the it's fucking me up, but I'm enjoying it. Um, I'm embracing getting fucked up. Uh, does that make sense? Do you understand? I really like this, and yes, it's fucking me up to talk about and to think about, but it's almost cathartic. It almost feels like it's just like a pressure lifting off of me to be able to talk about this all. And also just in general getting to relate it to something that some of you at least anyone who's watching this probably still watched along with me, something that you could visualize. You were able to visualize what I'm talking about here, and my thoughts going into here. So that it very much helps. It very much helps, and allows me to embrace this series a lot more. It is so well written, it's so maturely handled, and it's powerful. It's saying a lot without actually saying anything, which astounds me, honestly. It's like it's not one of those shows that wears its message on its sleeve and is like beating you over the head with it and really trying to hammer in the themes and everything. Instead, it tells you a story of a vulnerable person during the end of the world and lets that speak for itself. It lets the story share the message naturally. And I really, really like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm fine with movies or shows or games that wear their message on their sleeve. Those are very much necessary in today's world, and a lot of times they can be very, very, very good. But sometimes it's also very good to have a piece of media that is more subtle with how its message is delivered. Both can be good, just depends on how they're handled. And this is if I'm being completely honest, probably the best first impression I've had in a long time. Like let me look this up. Um if YouTube will come up here. Because I can look up just on my what is it called? My studio, that's what it's called. I can look up what all of my recent first impressions were just by typing in first impressions. Um, and I'm not just trying to compare this with everything to like try to compare the shows because they're very different shows and everything, but I want to make this comparison for the sake of more just how positive my thoughts are. So I did TMNT this week as well, the 2012 TMNT, and that was a very positive one actually. I did very much enjoy that, but this was definitely better. You have the last showdown we did, which had Blue Eye Samurai and stuff like that in there. Michiko and Hachin, uh, and the other one I can't think of the name right now. But yeah, it's like definitely a better first impression than those. Pluto was a really good first impression. Um, but yeah, I'd say this was a better first impression. Murder Drones, Undead Unlock, Kagurabachi. Um, you have another showdown with like some blue lock and whatnot, and it's like, yeah, I'm not even seeing anything that really even compares to how good of a first impression this gave me. Um, I think the closest I'm seeing like anytime recently was back in July, and that was the one that I did the first impression to Zom 100 and My Adventures with Superman in. Um, and those two were pretty damn good first impressions. Even if the other one, Kagura-sama, in that list didn't really do it for me. Obviously you had Doctor Stone, which was a really good first impression, but again, just not on the same level. Yeah, nothing's really quite on the same level. Oh, okay. I found the one that is probably the most recent one that is on this level of high quality first impressions for me, and it was back in February, and that was Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That one was a really good first impression for me. That one really worked for me. But that was back in February. None of the first impressions I did since then hit that hard for me. None of them were that good for me. Uh, and there's Link Click. Okay, Link Click was shortly before that. That was in January of this year, almost 12 months ago. That one is still actually better than this. I mean, I will never deny that. Link Click is probably the best first impression I've ever had to a show. Um, so it's like it's going to be very hard to ever beat that out in terms of a first impression. But this is in the top three, along with that and Moon Girl. I would 100% say that those are the top three first impressions um, I've probably had this year. I would have to go back and think about a lot of it again, but yeah, probably. Um, but to be fair, there's a lot that goes into that in general. So there's obviously a lot I would have to think about to really determine an order for that, but that's just going off the top of my head and everything. Um, so yeah, either way, I would love to hear your thoughts on this first episode of Carol and the End of the World. Let me know what you thought, and yeah, I this is probably one of those that I'm going to get back to pretty quickly. I don't know how quickly, but I want to get back to this one pretty quickly. Um, Either way, like I said, let me know your thoughts, and for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.